Welcome back to Sense of Life. My name is Cody,
I'm Joe.
and we watched something pretty cool this week. It was big on the internet about height of COVID when it came out. It was called the White Lotus, and it's the first season. At the time that it came out, it was just going to be a mini series. It has since had a second season that we might do an episode on because this first season was really cool and we really liked it, but we will get into that. We're just kind of jumping right in, unless there's anything else you're dying to talk about beyond that.
No, yeah, I'm eager to talk about this show because I had a lot of fun watching it.
Me too. So, I had heard about it a lot because I was kind of privy to a lot of the spaces on Twitter that people would talk about it. I know Bret Easton Ellis had reviewed it early on and thought it was really cool. You hadn't heard about it all that much, right?
No, I had not heard of it at all until you suggested it, actually. So yeah.
So you came in completely blind, like it wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, I guess not completely blind. I briefly looked at the Wikipedia for it, and it just said that it was like a black comedy,
Yeah.
It's an anthology series now, but obviously when the first season came out, it was just a kind of just one mini series kind of thing.
Yeah. And that was the original intention behind it, to be a mini series, but it really took off, and it was just really successful. And yeah, it was really cool. What'd you think?
Yeah, I honestly, like you said, I had no idea what to think going in, but I'm not usually kind of like a cringe comedy kind of person. During the viewing experience, there was some cringing going on, but not in a bad way where I was like, oh, fuck off, like I hate this. It was like, no, it was like it was really damn funny. I really enjoyed the kind of aesthetic they had going, where they really show off the actual hotel and like the island that they're on, with these kind of almost kind of surreal transitional shots and opening shots of different episodes and stuff. It was really neat.
Yeah, a Neato burrito kind of show.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's to give a little context for anyone that doesn't know anything about it. The White Lotus is about this. Now it's a essentially franchise of hotels that exist across the world in the show, and guests that are quite wealthy come and visit, and they go through the various monotonies of all of that happening, and comedy and madness ensues. And it starts out with a kind of I guess you could call it a cold open. It's more of a framing device of there has been a murder, but it takes place at the end of the week, and then it goes back to the beginning of the week, and then we go to the end and figure out what happened.
Right. It sets you up with the expectation of there being a murder, and as you said, it happens at the end. But watching it, I was like, man, when is this murder gonna happen?
Yeah.
Like every episode, I was waiting for it to end dramatically with the murder, but it doesn't happen until like the last episode.
Yeah,
like the very end of the last episode too. So it was it just went right from the murder to right back to the beginning of the show. So they didn't really give you any time to kind of process that, I guess.
And on the surface, it seems like it would be like a whodunit clue kind of thing, and it kind of is, but it doesn't really have that kind of structure.
Right.
It feels a lot more leisurely in the pacing, but it doesn't ever feel like we're just kind of dawdling or spinning our wheels. Like there's like a lot of comedic and like dramatic tension
for sure,
basically every episode. And like I think we were talking that like just the way, I think at least after the first episode, I think the way the episodes were ending was like a kind of like, oh, what happens next kind of cliffhanger kind of thing.
Yeah, and sometimes, people can be critical of that, where they're like, oh, it's just to draw you back in, but I mean, it draws you back in.
It works.
What can I say? It works. And yeah, it was the characters in this show were all pretty fantastic in and ridiculous in their own way.
Yeah.
I'm still not sure who I would say was my favorite character. I think it might be the lady that was spreading her mother's ashes, just because like every interaction she has with everybody else is just the most awkward and like psychotic middle-aged woman thing you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah, she's portrayed by Jennifer Coolidge, and she's fucking hilarious. And it's got some pretty cool people in the cast. There's the ever-present Sydney Sweeney shows up in this season.
Yeah.
Who's also on Euphoria. She's like the it girl of Gen Z. And here Wood, I'll say.
Yeah. As the kids say, hear me out. And it's it's the hottest person you've ever seen in your life.
With great tits.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so she's like not just being hot, she's also just a really great actress, and always very menacing throughout the show. She's got Mike White, who wrote and directed the series. He was on TPN, the Perfume Nationalist, to talk about White Lotus and everything, and also just like they talked about 3 Sissy Spacek movies. But the point is that she has this kind of 70s actress quality that Mike White talked about. She even looks like physically like Nancy Allen, who was Brian De Palma's wife back in the 80s, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And she was in Carrie, she was in Dress to Kill and Blowout.
I can see what you mean. Yeah.
She's got the camera presence of that kind of actress, and it's really cool to watch. Like they were talking about how basically Nancy Allen could be Sydney Sweeney's mom because she looks so much like her. And Mike White, he created the show. He seems like a really, really cool dude. He's been around the industry for a long time. He's like Gen X 52.
Yep.
He directed, the only other thing I've seen of his was a movie he directed about 6 years ago called Brad Status with Ben Stiller. It's about this guy that's obsessed with his status as he's like becoming obsolete or whatever. I didn't really know what to think of it at the time that I watched it, but I feel like if I watched it again, I'd really like it.
Yeah, no, I have not seen that. I know he also was one of the writers for School of Rock, if anyone knows that movie with Jack Black.
Yeah, that was like the one big studio movie that Richard Linklater directed.
And he also has a cameo in Zombieland where he gets killed in a toilet by a zombie. In a very brief scene.
And he was also a contestant on a season of Survivor.
Oh, I had no idea that was a thing.
Yeah. He's been around and just popped up in weird places.
Yeah.
But he seems like a really, obviously he's very talented because he's been working for years. But he just seems really cool, and I'm glad he made this. So, as far as favorite characters, I think for me, like, it's between Armand, who's the manager of the hotel.
Yeah.
And I think the libtard mom.
Yeah, The libtard mom was great.
She's like a Hillary, like intellectual dark web ask.
Yeah, she
voter.
she she works for like a big tech company, and there's like several moments where she references like that she has to go on like a Zoom call with these like Chinese business associates, and
Yeah.
her husband talks about how their honeymoon was in China, and that his wife learned Chinese, and she her son wants to borrow her phone at some point, and she's like, no, I need it in case China calls or something like that. And it's like it's kind of interesting that they're just like they were just really hammering home this like relation between this big tech kind of lady and China just constantly.
There's this kind of thematic through line in the show that it's like very online and like
It is, yeah.
like low key, quote unquote, based in red pilled about like everything, but it kind of flies under the radar of like the average libtard.
That's the term we're gonna use.
Yeah.
I also really liked the dad.
Yes, yeah, I loved him. What is that actor's name? I cannot remember.
Steve Zahn. I have no idea.
He's another guy that's been around for a long time.
Yeah,
been in a lot of things.
He also played the dad in the Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies.
Diary of a Wimpy Kid,
which I think I saw the first one when like the year it came out, and I don't know how old I was. Probably too old. I don't know.
Looks like he was also in Reality Bites, Ben Stiller movie. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, Steve Zahn, he's great. Other characters that I liked. There's the Sydney Sweeney character who the two like Zoomer girls on there, Mike White specifically had them listen to the Red Scare podcast. Like he literally like part of his direction was you need to listen to this podcast.
That's incredible.
And so basically the way he characterizes these two girls as like a Alice in Wonderland like evil version of like the hosts of Red Scare, Dasha Negrasova and Anna Khachiyan. Because the Zoomer girls are like the really annoying like leftist hardline version of Red Scare.
Right.
And even though Red Scare was at least early on, I think, claimed to be like a left-wing podcast, but it really wasn't. It was kind of a joke that it was left-wing, because Dasha had first gone viral because of the Sailor Socialism video. I don't know if you remember this.
I actually don't.
Okay, so a few years ago, I think it was like in 2018, before Red Scare, there was a video of this girl that was very new to the game, working for InfoWars. She's on Twitter. I think her name's like Ashton Blaze or something. I can't remember. Because I follow her on Twitter.
Sounds like a porn name, dude.
She's on OnlyFans.
Oh, well, I did not know that.
I don't think she does porn on there, but it's serendipitous that you said that.
Yeah.
and she wound up being more of like a liberal kind of character, which is funny. Because she went up to Dasha and was like, because they were at like, I think it was at South by Southwest, because Dasha was there for the premiere of Wobble Palace, a movie she acted in, directed by Eugene Kotlyrenko. And the person asked, like, oh god, what was it? It was like, do you know like the It was something about Bernie Sanders, and she was wearing this like Dasha was wearing this Sailor Moon cosplay, and she was like in support of Bernie at the time, and was like, yeah, I like support socialism or whatever. And this went viral, and then later on the Red Scare podcast started. Just look up Sailor Socialism. I'm not doing it justice right now, but it was interesting.
Okay, I believe you. Yeah. I really liked the sort of relationship with the there was like the whole family of the libtard mom and the dad, and they had a son and a daughter, and then the daughter was Sydney Sweeney's character, and she brought her friend shit, I remember her name. Paula.
Yes, yeah.
They brought her a racially ambiguous friend, I think is how you described her at one point.
I think I said ethnically ambiguous.
Same thing.
But
either way, yeah,
the ethnically ambiguous Lotus.
Yeah. They brought her. they brought her on their vacation, and there are like several instances where there are just shots of Sydney Sweeney and her both reading books.
Yeah,
and like the first shot is like they're reading Nietzsche and Freud.
Yeah, it's the most like online like alt-right, alt-left type books.
Yeah. and
then there's a Sexual Personae by Camille Paglia with like a totally fake cover, by the way, because they were holding like a hardcover that was like 200 pages long, and Sexual Persona is like 700 pages. And Sexual Persona is like the Red Scare tome, which is another like in joke for the lore of the internet that White Lotus is drawing from.
The terminally online Easter eggs.
Yes.
And I
just everyone's like Leo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that is just watching this show.
There was a point later on where they were reading different books, and one of them was by Lacan.
Yeah.
Some French motherfucker.
The French Freudian, I think.
Yeah, that guy. And I forget what the other one was reading, but during this whole like kind of interweaving of separate ridiculous subplots of like the different guests at the hotel, there's also this rich guy and his wife that just got married, and he's reading a book that was called Blink: The Power of Thinking Without Thinking, which is just a fantastic like representation of his character. Summarized by the book he's reading. He's
like this rich mama's boy.
Yes. Whose his mom was played by Molly Shannon. Yeah, she. I'm trying to remember what I saw her in. She was in. I don't remember what I saw her in, but I know her name. It might have been a TV show. I'm not sure. Anyway, point being, he was a like total mama's boy, and his wife like introduces herself as a journalist, and you're like, oh, okay. And then she like elaborates on the kind of journalism she does, and it's literally like that BuzzFeed level, like 10. I think the actual article she talks about is like 10 women kicking the corporate world's ass. It's just like BuzzFeed journalist, and she just kind of has to come to terms with the fact that she's a shitty journalist. And
played by Alexandra Daddario, who is also very attractive.
Yes. And there's a point where she meets the libtard mom, as we've just canonized her name as.
Yes.
and she tells her like, "Oh, I know who you are. I wrote an article about you," and so on and so forth. And they had this really friendly conversation, and then she tells her what the article was, and then then the mom is just like, "Wow, that was a shitty article." Like she knew what it was. She was like, that made me sound like I was just some hack climbing the ladder using Me Too as a way to.
Yeah, I think she said like riding the Me Too wave.
Yeah. And then she tries to defend herself by saying, "Oh, but I just copied that profile from another journalist." It's like, well, then you're just a shitty journalist. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. Not only
you
did
both
you
suck and make me look
Yeah.
bad, like
Yeah.
fuck you.
It was great. The I think probably the dynamic between the whole family of Sydney Sweeney and her character's family was probably like my favorite part of the show, because it starts with their dad is like, first of all, I'm pretty sure the first shot of their dad is of his balls, by the way.
Yes.
And he is he's worried that he has like testicular cancer because they're like swollen. And
because he thinks his dad died of cancer, and that's what he'd been told.
Yeah.
And that
I don't even necessarily think that was what he was told. I think that's just what he internalized and thought. Like, that's just what he came to in his own head, that was what killed him.
It turns out that's not what killed him, and it results in, I think, one of the funnier subplots.
Yeah. So it turns out he doesn't have testicular cancer, and then he was like calling his uncle or something about his dad, and it's like, "Oh, what kind of cancer did he have?" And then his uncle's like, "Your dad didn't die of cancer." And he's like, "Oh, what happened?" And he goes, he's like, he died of AIDS. The whole time, it's like, the whole time they're having this phone conversation, the camera is switching between showing the dad and showing his wife, and he's like, "AIDS?" And then the next shot is the mom, and her jaw like drops.
If we could figure out a way to like splice in like a shot
for sure
of that like video of her jaw dropping, that'd be great.
But yeah, that scene was hilarious. The uncle revealing that that his dad died of AIDS, and he's like, "How did he get it?"
Like, how did he get AIDS? He's like, "Well, he had sex with men."
He had sex with men. He's like, "What?" like for an entire day of their week, maybe like 2 days of their week-long vacation, he's
at least like an episode and a quarter.
Yeah, he's just hammered. He's like having a crisis about his dad, the image of his dad being like this super alpha Chad, being destroyed by the knowledge that his dad
a closet homosexual.
Was a closet homosexual, yeah. And it was great.
And he's having this whole crisis, and then he ends up at like a bar at one point and comes across Armand,
the hotel
probably
manager,
my favorite, the hotel manager, who we find out is gay at some point. I don't remember exactly when.
I think it's literally at that point, because the dad is drunk and he's just like, "Hey, you're gay, right?" and then Armand just kind of goes, "Yeah."
Yeah. And then he's like, "What's it like to get fucked in the ass?"
And then Armand, now there's a subplot of, well, actually it's a major part of the plot, is that Armand is like a recovering alcoholic and drug addict who has been sober for like 5 years, and the rich husband and his newlywed wife. The rich husband is just being a dick to Armand the entire time that that he's at the hotel, and Sydney Sweeney's character and her friend had like a bunch of prescription drugs and like ketamine and weed and shit in this bag that they lost.
Prescription drugs.
Not so prescription drugs, and they lost the bag, and it got brought to Armand's office. So he just had all their drugs in his office, and this rich dude that kept pissing him off drove him to fuck up his 5 years of sobriety. So
Yeah.
now he's hammered, like on the job, at the hotel, and maybe not hammered, but he was drunk, and and the dad was like asking him, he's like, "What's it like to get fucked in the ass?" And then he goes, "Do you want to find out?" And then the dad just kind of like leaves. He's like, I'm gonna go.
He's
now.
like, peace out, hombre.
Yeah. The downfall of Armand was like another like highlight of the many like plot threads that the show had going that I really enjoyed. I felt sad. I was like, come on, man, you had 5 years of sobriety, and now look at what you've done.
Yeah, and I like how, I'm kind of jumping ahead here, and we'll probably jump in between a bunch of different things. It's just the great thing about the show is there's just like so many things going on at once, and how they all resolve is really interesting. I love the way Armand is at near the end, where it's becoming clear that this is gonna something's going to come back and bite him. There's a scene with the Lucas Gage character, the surfer guy with the long hair.
Yeah, and the man bun.
Yeah, and that's going to come back and bite him. And he's just gotten to the point where he has realized that he feels like he's wasted his life. You know, like it's what's that one fucking Twitter dude that we clown on all the time?
Oh,
you've wasted your life.
Yeah. Price is primary.
Price is primary.
He'll just occasionally his tweets are like about like, you know, economics and market and stuff like that, and then randomly he'll just have these like 14-year-old who's turned their profile picture into like a black image, and it's like they're like, you wasted your life. Like he's just having like a depressive episode, but that's beside the point.
Armand straight up goes like, I wasted my life, and then like goes on the biggest bender of his life.
Yeah.
And just like says fuck this place. And I liked how it showed that like character thing of being in this like job you really fucking hate, but you never felt like you could leave for whatever reason, and just how that kind of results in a wasted life in a way.
Yeah, it's also it's reinforced by the fact that he gets a call from his boss, like the regional manager or whatever of the hotel, who basically is like, he gets the call that guy is going to come by tomorrow and fire him, and that is just like the motivation to just say, you know what, fuck it, and then he goes on the bender.
Yeah. It's some really cool stuff. There's a lot of just really good directing of actors and getting good performances. I love the relationships with Quinn, the son.
Yeah.
Where like he's first coming on, and it's just like, Sydney Sweeney's like, are you fapping in there? Why are you fapping?
Yeah, he's introduced as like the younger brother who just like is on his phone all day or playing his Nintendo Switch. But then he decides to sleep on the beach because his sister and her friend just like refuse to let him sleep in the living room or whatever of their hotel room. And then his phone and Switch get like washed away into the ocean because he didn't realize.
iPad, I think,
and
too.
yeah, he like every piece of electronics that he had with him just got destroyed because he didn't know what high tide was, I guess.
High tide.
God, fucking Scooter from SpongeBob. Yeah, and then he's like having this crisis where he just needs a phone. But then it gets to the point where he like wakes up on the beach one day and he sees these Hawaiian guys with like their boat, and he's like, I want to do that. And then he goes out on the open sea with these Hawaiian dudes just rowing this big canoe. And he kind of has like this return of the primitive moment where he's like, yeah, fuck technology. I want to stay here, and we're gonna ride all over Polynesia. I forget what the term was that he used for
yeah, I can't remember
for like the event of rowing around all these islands, but it was great.
Yeah, he just basically has this moment where he like finally touches grass and then doesn't want to touch anything else.
Yeah.
And he keeps sleeping on the beach throughout the rest of the series. Like, he never comes back inside.
Yeah, he keeps like sleeping on the beach, and because he has no phone, his family just doesn't know where he is the entire day, and it's just because he's out on the open sea with these Hawaiian guys just rowing a boat. And there was a lot of great character moments with him and the dad, where like the dad is like talking to he's talking to the recently married BuzzFeed journalist lady, and he's like talking about how he's been married for so long that like having sex with his wife is just like, I think that what the fuck did he say? He said it was like just a thing you work yourself up to do, and then he said something about like eating like worms or some shit. like yeah, he likened it to Fear Factor or some shit.
The next day, Quinn was like, "Yeah, you said sex with mom was like eating worms." and he said, "I said that."
And he has to have the moment where he clarifies. He's like, "Your mother is an amazing woman," and so on and so forth. He did that Trump thing. He put his hands up, and he's like, "She's an amazing woman." But yeah,
I said that. Oh wow!
You're telling me now for the first time.
She was an amazing woman.
He puts his finger behind his ear to perk it up to get. He's like, "Hold on, what?" Yeah, it was. I'm not a big TV show person, but maybe it's just because it was a miniseries and it was just really well made that I was like really digging it.
Yeah, and it's just the way it's using the location. The show Emily in Paris is similar. It's shot on location in Paris. This is shot on location in Hawaii. The next season is in like Sicily, and it just really relishes in the fucking like travel porn aspect of
right.
The White Lotus. It's really cool. The next big thing is this character Kai, who he shows up early on. The Paula character is into him, and they start fucking.
As you do.
I just wanted to say they start fucking.
Yeah.
And Olivia, which is Sydney Sweeney's character, gets annoyed at this for whatever reason, and apparently this has been her MO in the past, because we find out that like the last boyfriend that Paula had, Olivia fucked because she didn't want Paula to have something that she didn't have.
Something like that.
Bitches be crazy. It was very bizarre, but it seems very true to life in my experience.
She was enacting her will to power because she was reading Nietzsche. So
right, of course.
That's why she took what she wanted.
And this Kai guy, he seems pretty cool at first.
Yeah.
He's one of the Hawaiian dudes that's doing the rowing with Quinn, and he's also a part of this like native tribe that it turned out that the White Lotus, the people that owned it, had bought up the land and kind of quote unquote colonized the area, and kind of pushed out the indigenous people, the BIPOCs.
Jesus.
out to the side.
Yeah.
And so that's the story, supposedly. Whether it happens that way or not really doesn't matter. And Kai is wanting to fight this, but he also just needs a job, so he starts doing the kind of the kabuki Hawaiian thing for the location.
Kabuki, famous Hawaiian dance.
Yeah, it's close.
Close enough.
They're both in the water.
Yeah, yeah. The Hawaiians eat that spam musubi thing, which is just like sushi with spam on it. So they're basically Japanese.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
but yeah, no, it. And the character of Paula, she becomes like, she gets like main character syndrome, and she's like, I have to help this poor, oppressed individual and his tribe to get back at this hotel for stealing their land. So she decides to inform him of the fact that the family that she came there on vacation with is pretty wealthy, and they have like
Right.
there's like a minor plot point earlier about the mother having like these $75,000 bracelets or something crazy like that. It was like super expensive, and
Yeah.
they were leaving them in this safe in their room, and she gets the idea to uh, give like this necklace she has to her friend and say like, oh, can you put this in the safe for me? I don't want to lose it when we go out on the boat or something. And she overhears what the safe combination is and gives it to Kai and tells him like, oh, you can steal this $75,000 bracelet and use the money to get a good lawyer to fight the company that owns the hotel, because random tribal Hawaiians suddenly having $75,000 out of nowhere isn't going to be suspicious after
Yeah, it's
those super expensive pieces of jewelry were stolen at the hotel.
yeah, it's a very much like a I'm 19 and just read Saul Alinsky and I'm a liberal like leftist now kind of plan. It's like totally divorced from reality and totally divorced from any kind of
Any logic at all.
yeah.
There was no real planning that went into this heist, and
And I like how he does that. He like there's all these like opportunities for a genre kind of trope to come up, and it's always just kind of it's recognized and just kind of like subverted. As much as we hate that kind of term,
mhm.
but it's just in favor of a more real and human kind of interaction and emotion. Even the break in itself, it's basically botched and he fucks it up as,
Yeah.
as you would.
Well, the interesting thing is he seemed like a nice enough guy that when he actually went through it, you were like, God damn it, Kai, what are you doing? Come on, you shouldn't do this.
Yeah, and even when he is doing it, he takes a libtard mom, and it's like, I'm not going to hurt you, not going to hurt you anything, just be quiet or whatever. And he gets tackled to the ground, ends up punching out the dad who had come back. And the reason she had come back is another thing that happens is just plans change. And originally they thought no one was going to be in the hotel room. Someone came back because she got mad at the husband.
And then the husband came after her to try and calm her down, and then he walks in on on Kai like holding his wife hostage, or not even really holding her hostage, but just telling her to like stay on the ground and he's going to leave, basically. And the whole thing gets botched. And the interesting thing is the act of him tackling the robber to the ground actually like rekindles the relationship with his wife, because they were having some trouble. Which I thought was
because
really
in the
funny.
past he had, I don't know if we mentioned this, because in the past he had an affair.
Yes, he had an affair.
The reason that she got mad at him again was because he told Quinn, the son, even though they had agreed not to tell the kids, but he was trying to have a emotional moment with the son. It made sense to me why he did it, but it also made sense to me why she would be upset at it.
Yeah. It's interesting how the show can be so funny and like present ridiculous scenarios, but like actually pretty real and human, as you said, character interactions like that, where it's like what is being said makes sense, and you can see all the different perspectives.
Yeah.
Even in certain scenarios like the heist where you're like, wow, that was a retarded plan.
Yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, I can envision someone being stupid and doing something like that because people do that all the time in real life.
Yeah, that's the majority of break-ins, I would assume. Someone being that fucking stupid.
Yeah, basically. But it was kind of interesting how getting robbed kind of brought the whole family together.
Getting robbed and like battered.
Yeah,
he punched him a couple times. And he, oh god, what was it? Maybe it's not that. I think the biggest method of tension throughout the series is between Armand and the rich dude.
Oh, for sure.
So these two are at a head pretty much from the beginning. Because what happens is that Armand had accidentally booked two people in the quote-unquote pineapple suite. Side note, the connections to SpongeBob with this were palpable. Not planned, obviously, but it common theme on this show we appear to be having is all roads leading back to SpongeBob or Star Wars.
Yeah. Speaking of Star Wars, today is George Lucas's birthday, the day we are recording this. So,
yeah,
just
another connection.
Just throwing that out there for no reason at all.
Well, happy birthday, George.
Yeah.
Anyway,
exactly.
What was I saying?
That Armand and the rich guy whose name I can't remember. I think it was Shane.
Yeah, that's
Shane. Right. They were in conflict with each other from the beginning.
Right, yeah, because Armand had accidentally booked two different families to this pineapple suite, which is the biggest suite, and they don't quite figure it out right away. And so the rich guy is just being an annoying asshole to him about this whole situation that his wife tries to get him to stop bugging him about, and it like escalates and escalates and escalates up to the point where, like, by the time that Armand is about to get fired and on his like bring everyone down,
I really liked that scene, by the way, when he was like he had the other young guys working at the hotel in his office doing drugs, and the way it was shot, where like the camera slowly approaches from like a low angle.
And then it goes into that like
it like
a Dutch angle or something.
It like gets it kind of goes across his office, like across the table, and then it's like at a low angle up to Armand sitting there, and it's like the moment he decides to I guess were you going to say what he ultimately does at the end of his bender?
Yeah. He gets to the very end, and they've been at each other's throats throughout this entire time. He sneaks into the rich guy's place because now they're in the pineapple suite because the other family had left. He sneaks in there and he opens up the suitcase and fucking shits in.
You get like a side view of him shitting, like a fucking angry video game nerd fucking clip on YouTube or something. It was insane.
Absolutely crazy, and
as you would expect from a series with comedy and tension and so on, is that the rich guy comes back to his room, right like seconds after Armand is done shitting in his luggage,
and Armand has to hide, and this rich guy who. When I heard Brett Easton Ellis review the series the first time, he described this character as like a mini Patrick Bateman. And I understand what he means by this, but what I liked about what Mike White does with this show in like keeping the interactions human and not genre is that like we get to this like really tense showdown between these two characters where Armand's trying to hide and get out of there, and then this kind of like Chekhov's gun kind of thing happens where the rich guy had gotten this knife because he was worried about the break-in at the family's place. And so he grabs that knife and is searching for Armand, but he doesn't realize it's Armand because he has found the shit in his suitcase.
He smelled it first.
And he does this like fucking Wolverine like kind of shit.
That was a great moment too, where like he grabs the knife, and he doesn't, because the hotel hasn't told anyone about the break-in. He found it out from the family themselves that someone had broken into the room, which is kind of weird that the hotel wouldn't inform the guests that there was a break-in. Like, you'd think that would be important to tell people. They also don't inform them that the person that broke into the room got caught, because that does happen before that point in the story, is that Kai gets caught with all the jewelry.
Yes, yeah.
But he's not aware of this. He's under the impression that there is still a thief that could potentially be breaking into their room, and because they're in like the biggest room, he thinks they are a target.
Yeah,
for
and like
being broken into.
It's really cool, like dramatically, because like for everything that the rich guy knows, like this is a perfectly logical way to act, like of having this knife ready to go. So like he can't really be like Patrick Bateman because he's not insane. He's just kind of annoying.
Right. He's kind of a dick, but he's also been hearing about people being, burglarized and punched in the face, and like he doesn't want his wife to be assaulted and so on. Like he's a dick, but he's a pretty reasonable person in regard to the fact that he was walking around his hotel room with a knife.
Yeah, and I think probably my favorite moment in the show was like when he is coming up with a knife, and we're gonna spoil the ending here. The twist is revealed that it actually wasn't a murder; it was an accident. In that Armand comes around the corner and he has the knife right in front of him, not really wanting to stab anyone. He just happens to walk right into it, and he like
stabs
the rich guy's
Armand,
like,
yeah.
And rich guy's like, "Oh shit, sorry," kind of thing.
yeah. It was, if he was a mini Patrick Bateman, he wouldn't really have that moment of like, "Oh shit." That was not supposed to happen. That was very bad.
Yeah, and he's like an actual human being, and what I really like about the kind of the thematic through line of the show is it's taking all of this like really online shit that people were obsessed with, kind of distilling it down into like something that's digestible for normies, but also finding that underneath all of this like bullshit is like we're all human beings, and like we need to function in a society together, or else we're gonna go on benders and kill each other. So it really has this like quote unquote humanist like drive by the end.
Yeah, it's it's all kind of, it all logically follows, but it also all stems from the events, that the logical events that lead up to the death of Armand at the end, kind of all naturally follow from the sympathy that that Paula had for the quote unquote colonized of the island where the hotel was.
Yeah.
So kind of based, I don't know. It's like misplaced sympathy. Maybe not misplaced sympathy, but your actions as a result of your sympathy blowing up in your face and causing all this other chaos. Which is definitely a thing that happens a lot.
Yeah. It's the base Lotus, one might say.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm really glad that I watched it, because I had tried to watch it before I had gotten through the first 2 episodes, and I fell off of it for something. I don't really know why.
Mm-hmm.
But having a reason to sit down and watch it, I definitely recommend it. At least the first season. I think we'll probably watch the second season.
I would be down for the next
episode. Might as well.
Like a 2-parter kind of thing.
Yeah.
That might be interesting. Yeah, we haven't also we also haven't really talked about the the lady that is spreading her mother's ashes all that much.
Oh, right.
Her character,
that was the other thing I was going to mention.
she's kind of just ever present and being really irritating. She's very needy.
Yeah.
She's very like maybe not demanding, but like she seems like a nice enough person. She's not like demanding of people, but she's like very emotionally all over the place and like distraught. And it's obviously because her mother died.
Yeah.
But I really liked the scene where Olivia and Paula were on the beach and they just like 2 seconds ago started taking their drugs. And then she fucking comes up and she like gets in their faces and is talking to them, and then you just get like this POV shot of just this fucking lady just droning on. It's just like not paying attention at all to what she's saying.
Yeah.
And she like meets this dude at the hotel who is played by I can't remember his name, but he plays Uncle Rico in Napoleon Dynamite. I was not expecting to see him in this. Very, very funny character. There's just like so many subplots that happened throughout the show that kind of all interlink together to bring you to the shitting in the luggage kind of thing. That it's kind of hard to talk about coherently, but
right. We're just like all over the place.
Yeah, jumping all over the place, but it was very good. I would highly recommend checking it out. It's on
HBO Max,
or Max as it's called now. They dropped HBO. Yeah. Or if you're in Canada, I'm pretty sure it's on Crave, which is just our version of HBO Max.
Yeah. I think the only other kind of plot thread we didn't talk about was the character Belinda.
Yes, yes. Yeah, she very much ties into the whole plot with Jennifer Coolidge's character, the lady spreading her mother's ashes, where like she's the hotel like masseuse or whatever, and her entire thing is just like she hates, or she doesn't really hate the job, but she does aspire to do more.
Be your own boss, basically.
Yeah, as most people do, really.
Right.
Again, a very relatable character. And there's a point where she's like talking to her son on the phone, and the big plot connection with Belinda and I think her name was Tanya, the one that was spreading her mother's ashes.
Flag or whatever.
Something like that. She she gives her a massage, and she's this lady is in such a mental state that it like blows her away. And she's like, "You're the best masseuse ever. Can I take you to dinner?" And then it's like she's like, "You should have your own wellness center, and I could finance that for you." And so like she's talking to her, Belinda's talking to her son on the phone, and the son basically is like, "Yeah, like take that shit, you know." do what you can, you know. It would be cool to be your own boss, you know. If this lady wants to finance it, then do whatever you can. And I was expecting there was an expectation with like a genre where like the black lady is dealing with all the rich white people, and then she has a moment where she's just done with all their shit, but she doesn't really have that. I guess there's a point where she kind of does, where like the BuzzFeed journalist lady is like having this kind of crisis where she doesn't like the fact that her husband is a rich dickhead, and she doesn't want to lose her like identity of always hustling or whatever. And Belinda has just lost her or has seemingly just lost her opportunity to actually get this like business proposal going, and her reaction to hearing this lady talk about how she's married to a rich guy, but she doesn't want to lose her identity, and she's going to lose out on all this money if she divorces him or whatever. She kind of is just like, "You want my advice? I'm done," or whatever, and she just fucking leaves.
I'm all out.
I'm all out. Yeah, she just leaves. Is that that's the last time you see her, except for at the very end when it just shows them waving at the new arrivals?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So it's just back to the routine.
Yeah. And it all starts over again, as anyone with a 9 to 5 knows.
Yeah.
The
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I think there was one last thing I wanted to say. Oh yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting how like weirdly pro-marriage the series is.
Yeah.
Because there's the subplot we talked about of libtard mom and dad. The dad going having an affair, and they are work it out together. It's not perfect, but they work out to stay together to take care of the kids. And just kind of marital problems. And actually, the journalist, I can't remember, Alexandra Daddario's character, Rachel, yeah, she wants to divorce Shane by the end of it, but after the shitting and the death,
the shitting and the death,
there's
like a reconciliation there.
They reconcile and they come back together at the end. I thought that was a little strange at first, and I was like, I mean, I get that, going through some shit like that, you'd probably
It's interesting how it has like these two different moments where like some really bad thing happens and it doesn't result in people becoming bitter and shitty about it. They actually come together to help each other and return to some sort of like normal, healthy relationship. It's a pretty good message, honestly. I really liked it. I think everyone should watch this. It's like cathartic. It's quote unquote life affirming. It's about pursuing values and staying alive and shitting in luggage.
Pursuing values, staying alive, shitting in luggage.
Yeah. Girl boss.
Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss.
Yeah. It's a very good show. I'm curious to see what the second season is like. I know, I think you said that Tanya is like a recurring character in the second season.
Well,
she's like,
I think Jennifer Coolidge is in the second season. I don't know if it's the same character. I don't know what her role is. I think she's in the second season. I think I saw that. That's all I know.
She's in the WLCU, the White Lotus Cinematic Universe.
I think it's going in this like American Horror Story direction of like the anthology series, but they're all in the same universe kind of thing. So characters will occur within, likely.
Right. Oh, and the important bit about the end is that Quinn decides to stay behind in Hawaii. He runs away from the airport when everyone else is getting on the plane and hangs out with the boys on their little boat.
And that's it. That's how it ends.
Yeah, it ends with just this guy deciding he's going to abandon his family. He's like 16. His character's like 16. He rejects the Nintendo Switch and embraces...
Returns to Monkey.
Yeah, he returns to Monkey. He embraces rowing a boat. The simple things in life, what brings him joy. And
living life, pursuing values. Average value pursuer be like.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, that was the White Lotus season 1. We've done about an hour on it.
Oh, really?
Is there anything else you want to talk about on it, or?
No, I think we've covered. We've had a pretty productive conversation about this.
Very productive day of podcasting.
Mm-hmm. Multiple breakthroughs. Yeah. Any other obscure references that one viewer is going to laugh at?
Yes, there are multiple tracks in like the soundtrack that fucking sound like SpongeBob menu music.
Yeah,
and it's incredible.
It was pretty great. I like how it's like you're talking about like these SpongeBob connections, but it's just shit like there's ukulele music.
Yeah.
And there's references to pineapples. And the scene where the guy's Nintendo Switch gets washed away in the high tide is like... I think when we were watching it, I directly referenced the episode of SpongeBob where Bubble Buddy brutally leaves Scooter buried in the sand, and then he drowns when the tide comes in. I think this is like the third episode we've done where like after the episode, like at the end of the episode, there's like a recap where SpongeBob is explicitly referenced, and like there's a brief discussion about it. Like this has happened several times now.
Yeah, it's becoming something of a meme.
Yeah,
and I'm here for it.
Yeah, honestly, if that's what you're known for is just referencing SpongeBob, then you know what?
Honestly, work.
Yeah.
All right. Unless we got anything else, I think we can go
Wrap
ahead
it
and
up.
call it.
No, I got nothing else.
I think we'll be back. Well, I mean, we'll be back in a couple weeks. I think this will go up on like Monday or Tuesday, maybe.
Ideally, Monday night.
All right.
If I'm done editing it before then, it'll probably come up in the afternoon or the evening. I don't know.
Yeah. But we'll be back in 2 weeks to talk about White Lotus Season 2, I think.
Yeah.
So I want to go ahead and finish that.